The world waits with bated breath as the mysterious rapture sign becomes clear. An awesome ceremony for the third temple takes place, paving the way for a potentially earth-shaking revelation that could change the course of human history forever. A ceremony commemorating the completion or dedication of the third temple was just held, and the news story focused on this fact. The rapture sign at the center of the ritual is something that has special meaning in the eyes of those who hold certain religious or eschatological views. The Hebrew prophets predicted that the exiles of Israel would one day return, and that the temple would be rebuilt in the end times. Ezekiel, Isaiah, and Amos are just a few of the many prophets in the Hebrew Bible who predicted the return of the Jewish people to the land of promise and the rebuilding of the temple. Many believers have come to rely on these prophecies as essential tenets of their end times theology. The nations will acknowledge God's sanctity when the temple is permanently located among the Israelites, as stated in Ezekiel. The creation of the current state of Israel in 1948 gave new meaning to these predictions. The third temple is important because it will serve as the abode of God's heavenly presence on earth. Many Jewish and Messianic believers consider the third temple to be the physical location of God's divine presence, which has immense theological significance. The temple is more than just a building, it's also a spiritual hub where people can commune with the divine. According to Ezekiel, the Holy of Holies left the second temple during the prophet's lifetime, but it will return at some point in the future. Preparations for the third temple continue apace as the Jewish people return to the Holy Land in fulfillment of prophecy. A large number of Jews from all over the world are moving back to Israel, which is seen by believers in end-time prophecy as a fulfillment of biblical prophecies. Many of these predictions center on the foundation of the current state of Israel in 1948. The Temple Institute and the Temple Mount Faithful movement are just two of the Jewish groups that have been working hard to get ready for the rebuilding of the third temple by doing things like breeding a red heifer and making ceremonial clothes and vessels. Preparations for the reconstruction are underway, with the help of the Temple Institute and the Temple Mount Faithful movement. Two of the largest Jewish groups working toward their shared goal of constructing a third temple atop Jerusalem's Temple Mount are the Temple Institute and the Temple Mount Faithful movement. They played a major role in recreating the temple's holy vessels, preparing priests for their roles, and fighting for Jews' access to the Temple Mount. The political and theological sensitivity of the site, which is currently home to the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, has presented formidable obstacles to these endeavors. In order to make the required sacrifices and welcome the divine presence, the third temple is essential. The importance of the third temple stems from the fact that it will serve as a temple for sacrifices. Some mitzvot, or commandments, can only be performed inside the temple grounds according to Jewish law. The ancient Jewish religion relied heavily on contributions and sacrifices of many kinds. It is believed that the restoration of the third temple is an essential step toward reestablishing these rituals and reestablishing a closer relationship with God. Before the return of the actual Messiah, the anti-Messiah, according to prophecies from both Daniel and the New Testament, will desecrate the third temple. The anti-Messiah Jewish and Christian eschatology, who is expected to oppose the real Messiah and taint the third temple before its destruction. His acts, including proclaiming himself to be God in the temple and upsetting the sacrificial system, are described in the book of Daniel and other New Testament texts, such as Matthew and Thessalonians. Many people refer to this time of desecration as the abomination of desolation. There are still obstacles to overcome, because the Dome of the Rock now sits atop the Temple Mount. The Dome of the Rock, a holy Islamic landmark, currently stands on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, blocking access to the area where the third temple would be built. Both Jews and Muslims place great religious and historical significance on the mount, thus any efforts to alter its status are met with tension and strife. The topic is very sensitive and difficult to resolve amicably due to the complicated political and religious sensitivities involved. Expectations of the coming of the Messiah are intrinsically tied with the completion of the third temple by many Jewish and Messianic believers. The Messiah is expected to play a major role in restoring the temple and ushering in a new period of peace and spiritual rejuvenation. Because of this conviction, people in these areas are filled with anticipation and hope. The whole range of biblical sacrifices and offerings, as outlined in the Torah, are expected to be reintroduced in the third temple. The sacrificial system, which represented atonement for sins and reconciliation with God in ancient Israelite religion, will presumably be reinstated in the third temple. The Temple Mount is one of the most politically and religiously charged areas on the planet. The presence of Islamic sacred sites like the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, as well as the current management by the Islamic Waqf, renders any change to the status quo very sensitive and potentially combustible. Consequently, there is substantial political difficulty and opposition from diverse groups to any suggestions or attempts to reconstruct the Third Temple. The significance of the rebuilding of the Third Temple in Christian eschatology is typically linked to the end times and the numerous events preceding the second coming of Jesus Christ. A future temple and its part in the unfolding of apocalyptic events are central to some readings of prophecies found in the books of Daniel and Revelation. Implications on a global scale. The prospect of a third temple being rebuilt and the attention it has garnered from believers and scholars interested in end-time predictions is intriguing. The Jewish and Christian populations aren't the only ones who could be affected by this topic's religious and geopolitical significance. The Temple Mount is a contentious religious site because of its importance to both Judaism and Islam, which has resulted in strained relations between the two faiths. Concerns concerning religious tolerance, mutual respect, and the possibility of cooperation or conflict in the pursuit of religious values all arise in the context of the topic of rebuilding the Third Temple. Some religious groups firmly support a literal reconstruction of the Third Temple, while others take a more figurative or allegorical view. The concept of the Third Temple has been interpreted in a variety of ways, with some seeing it as a metaphor for the indwelling of God's presence in the hearts of individuals and groups rather than in a building. In sum, the Third Temple and its position in end-time prophecy is a complicated and diverse topic with significant religious, political, and historical consequences. It continues to spark arguments and theological investigations among people of different religions, as well as among academics and observers who study the relationship between religion and international politics. What the future Third Temple means. In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the significance of the Third Temple is immense. To Jews, it represents the return of God to His chosen people through the restoration of the ancient temples that once stood in Jerusalem. The completion of the Third Temple is considered as a key event in Christian eschatology, heralding the end times, the return of Jesus Christ, and the rapture of believers. Jerusalem and the Temple Mount are holy to Muslims as well. In fact, they are considered the third holiest site in Islam, after Mecca and Medina. Aspects of prophecy. Many predictions and interpretations have surrounded the building of the Third Temple due to the widespread idea that it will fulfill prophecy. It has been argued by some religious authorities that the rapture and the events predicted by numerous apocalyptic prophecies cannot occur until the temple is rebuilt. They make reference to prophecies and verses from the Bible that identify the rebuilding of the temple as a crucial portent of the end times. The ritual. An elaborate and deeply moving ceremony recently marked the completion of the Third Temple. Many prominent politicians, religious leaders, and committed followers from all walks of life converged on Jerusalem to take part in and witness this momentous event. With great solemnity, people performed rituals, prayers, and symbolic deeds to mark the beginning of a new era in the world's religious history. The world affected. The ritual at the Third Temple sent shockwaves through the international religious world and beyond. The occurrence was seen by many as a powerful confirmation of the fulfillment of religious predictions. The Third Temple ceremony was a hot topic of conversation and reaction on social media, with relevant hashtags trending throughout the world. Tensions and conversations among faiths. Many people's lives would be irrevocably changed if the Third Temple were built, yet its development has also spurred interfaith talks, and in some cases, confrontations. Conflict between Jews and Muslims over the Temple Mount has fueled political and theological tensions for centuries. Potential tensions and threats to regional peace have been highlighted by the Third Temple's construction and acknowledgement. The Third Temple ceremony was a historic event, and its repercussions are still being felt today across religious, political, and social spheres. Devotion and religious tourism. The rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem has attracted worshippers from all over the world. For devout believers, a visit to the temple's original location is a pilgrimage of great spiritual significance. Tourism and business have both benefited from the inflow of newcomers. For many, the Third Temple ritual is a concrete sign of the fulfillment of prophecy, leading to an increase in apocalyptic speculations and ideas. There have been heated discussions on whether or not the event conforms to the predictions made in many religious texts and among religious leaders and experts. In addition to its religious significance, the rebuilding of the Third Temple also has far-reaching political ramifications. Since the Temple Mount has always seen a sore spot in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, any new developments there are likely to make things worse. The political scene on a worldwide scale is also influenced by how different nations respond to and react to news of the Third Temple's acknowledgement and significance. On the flip side, the ceremony has sparked new attempts to promote mutual understanding among different faiths through conversation and ritual. There has been an effort by religious leaders to work together to overcome historical and theological disputes to foster peace, tolerance, and respect. Efforts in architecture and archaeology. Building the Third Temple has been fraught with logistical and design difficulties. The project calls for meticulous preparation, a commitment to traditional architectural traditions, and an awareness of the site's religious and cultural significance. The initiative has also brought increased interest to the area's ongoing archaeological excavations. Public and media-focused media outlets have extensively covered and analyzed the events surrounding the construction of the Third Temple. Both interest and debate have been sparked by the topic's extensive coverage in the media and internet communities. Skepticism and criticism. While many people are convinced of the prophetic importance of the Third Temple, others see the ceremony as merely symbolic, rather than a portent of the end of the world. They claim that everyone's interpretation of a prophecy is different, which might lead to disastrous outcomes. As a result of their participation in the building and worship at the Third Temple, religious communities will experience a significant shift in their religious practices and traditions. In light of this momentous occasion, religious rituals, prayers, and observances may change or be reinterpreted. The tribulation and the building of the Third Temple, the verse from Daniel, often comes up. This scripture predicts that during the Great Tribulation, also known as the 70th week of Daniel, the Antichrist, or the Beast, will forge a covenant with the Jewish people and the nation of Israel for a period of 7 years. The 7 years will start when the Antichrist makes a pact with the Jews. This pact probably also involves the false prophet, another character closely linked to the Antichrist. The Antichrist will put an end to the Jewish covenant, animal sacrifices, and temple worship roughly 3.5 years into the 7-year era. The Antichrist will desecrate the Jewish temple in this way, maybe by claiming divine status and demanding worship from both Jews and non-Jews alike. There were some passionate demonstrations on the Temple Mount in honor of Jerusalem Day during the month of May in 2023. Likud party members of the Knesset visited the Temple Mount to mark the occasion, but another Likud lawmaker called them extremists for doing so. Several Arab leaders and authorities, including the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and Jordan, responded to the Jerusalem Day celebrations by condemning them as an attempt by Israel to falsely assume sovereignty over Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. Some leaders have called for rallies and demonstrations at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and other locations in the Old City of Jerusalem, raising tensions in the neighborhood. The Mughrabi Bridge, the only gateway allowing Jews, Christians, and other non-Muslims to enter the Temple Mount, was the subject of safety and condition concerns in September 2021. It was a national issue and a crucial part of Israel's link to the land and its historical and religious significance. Thus, members of the Knesset debated the need for emergency repairs to the bridge. Religious and political societies continue to be fascinated by and divided about the tribulation, the building of the Third Temple, and access to the Temple Mount. Various interpretations of regional prophecies and historical events are reflected in the events and beliefs. Thanks for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you want to watch more videos like this.